This video was shot at KublaCon 2014, the con of cons in Burlingame, California. Each Memorial Day weekend at KublaCon, you'll find enthusiastic excitement for gamers of all ages. From Pathfinder Society events to War College seminars to board, card, and role-playing games, KublaCon has it covered. Stop by KublaCon.com for more information, and be sure to look through all of our show coverage at ogrecave.com.
Okay, we're talking with Patrick Kapera from Crafty Games, and you've got a couple of new books, or newish books, out.
Really
so
new, actually, yeah.
Do you want to tell us about them?
Yeah, the newest book that we've released is the Mistborn Adventure Games first supplement.
Nice.
It's called Terris, Wrought of Copper.
Okay.
Mistborn is a narrative role-playing game that takes place in Brandon Sanderson's novel series world. And this one takes place in one of the northern dominances in a territory that's been subjugated by the Lord Ruler. And so it's detailing the culture of the Terrismen, their history, their main capital, a lot more about their magic and how they use metal mines and things like that. And the back half of the adventure, back half of the book rather, is a mega adventure that you can play inside that takes you from Luthadel up into Terris and around.
Well, great. So we're exploring the world a bit more in the role-playing game.
Yes.
And is the author, Brandon Sanderson, still staying involved in the development of the game?
Yes. He was a little less involved in this book than he was in the core one. In the core one, we've actually got comments from him throughout the entire book.
Right.
And this one doesn't have fiction from him, but it's been vetted by his team. It's as close to canon as we can possibly make it. The thing with these kinds of products is that we never know if he's going to write something in 3 or 4 years that it goes off in a different direction.
Right.
But within the limits of what we know, it's canon. So.
Well, as we've seen just recently with Star Wars, nothing is permanently canon.
Exactly.
Someone else will buy it out and just it's gone.
Yeah.
So what else do you have that's recent?
Yeah, the book that came out just before Terris, Wrought of Copper is Little Wizards, which is really near and dear to all of our hearts. It's a role-playing game, completely non-violent, built for kids aged 6 to 10.
Nice.
The idea is to sort of act as a primer so that you can parents can play with their kids, older kids can play with younger kids. It gives you an opportunity to introduce kids to the idea of stepping into a character, solving problems, playing as part of a group, teamwork, and all of that. But it also, what we've done, it's a translation from a French game, and one of the things that we did that was a little bit different than theirs, because theirs was several years old, we actually updated it to the modern gaming environment. Okay. And things like Fate have come along since then, and the gaming environment has really changed. So our game actually has characters have two sides. They're composed of things that look like traditional role-playing with dice and target numbers and overcoming things. And it's very simple and easy to understand, but there's also a side that's entirely narrative where you can make things up like aspects. And the idea is that once you're done playing this game, and the kids have grown to the point where they kind of want to take on something a little more complicated, they've been exposed to all the different stuff that is common in role-playing now. And they step into the game that they really like. If they like Spirit of the Century, they can just walk right into that and say, I've already seen some of this stuff. Or if they are more into the deeper end of things and want a lot of crunch, then they can go that way too. So.
Oh, great. So it serves as a really strong introduction to role-playing in general.
Mechanically and thematically, right.
Great, okay. What else is coming up? Is there anything you can tell us about?
Yeah, the next release that we'll be doing is Alloy of Law, which is the second expansion for the Mistborn role-playing game, and it's probably the one that's most anticipated. It's based on the fourth Mistborn novel, which takes place a few hundred years after the original trilogy.
Right, yeah.
And a lot has happened. I won't spoil it, but a lot happens in the novels that sort of recreates the world, and now it's an Old West setting. And the magic in the game is all about manipulating metals. So you can imagine it gets really interesting when you get into the Gold Rush and you get into old
bullets,
bullets and guns and things like that, and how that works. And so we're working on that now. It's moving partly through editing, partly through layout, but it'll be out by September. We'll have it at Gen Con.
Great. Okay.
The next thing after that is Z-Core, which we just announced, and it's a brand new game line we're doing. It's a translation just like Little Wizards. However, we've tweaked it as well. And their game had the original game played in 2 modes: a Survivor mode and a Z-Core mode. Ours focuses more on the Z-Core mode because we thought that was most interesting and unique. And the idea is that undead have erupted, but instead of losing the entire planet, only portions. It's set in the U.S. Only portions of the U.S. are lost. The military slaps the apocalypse down, the virus down, out on the edge. And so we've managed to contain it, but inside that area, it's a no man's land. And so your characters wind up being mercenaries who are working for a private organization that has been sort of like Blackwater, that's essentially been hired by the U.S. government to clean up those zones. So you go in and you're fighting a frontline war against zombies.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. How tough is it to translate a role-playing game into English and then still make it marketable?
It's a several-step process. You wind up, it's a little bit like editing the books twice, because you've got a translator who's editing, but invariably they're not also an editor. And so you wind up having things translated sometimes literally, sometimes not. And an editor has to be more aggressive going in, because you wind up hitting the text, and it's in English, which is great, but it doesn't flow like English would. And the ideas don't hang together in the same way, so you often sort of have to rip the text apart and rebuild it so that it flows like English would. And there are also cultural differences.
Yeah.
Things are culturally fine there that are not here, and vice versa. And so there's a lot of smoothing those edges off.
I would imagine you'd have to contact them and say, so what does this mean exactly?
That we actually don't run into too much trouble with, because the understanding the text is fine. It's just usually when you're editing, you're polishing. Yeah. And here you're more rebuilding, which is not a ding on the translator. It's not their fault. It's just that's the way that the text comes together. Yeah. Text structured in one language just simply does not work when it's directly translated. Yeah. So some massaging has to happen by somebody who speaks the native language you're actually publishing in.
Right.
Yeah, first. So, yeah.
Well, how's the show been for you? It seems like it's been a year or so since you were at KublaCon.
Yeah, I skipped a year. I was out of the country for a while, but I'm back, so it's good. I really love our position. We're right here against Open Gaming, which is fantastic.
It's nice to have the Open Gaming right next to the sales area. And take the game and immediately play.
They do a really great job with that. They've got a fantastic library of games, so people are constantly just running through. Even if they're not buying stuff, they're just playing, which is fantastic. So, yeah.
KublaCon is a very well-established, solid show and a great place to try new stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve and I are going to be playing out in Open Gaming tonight, just testing some new games. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll see you out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks a lot, Patrick.
Thanks for having me.